We are in Photoshop Creative Cloud 2015 release. We're working classroom in a book. This is lesson 10 and we're starting on page 226. We've used other brushes in Photoshop, but this particular lesson deals with the mixer brush. The mixer brush allows you to use Photoshop just like an artist uses oil paints or watercolor paints on paper or canvas. This is a more artistic phase of Photoshop, and some of you will enjoy this, and some of you may find this a very frustrating chapter, but I think you'll all find it challenging, and I think you will enjoy it once you have the mixer brush figured out. You're going to start off by learning how the brush works, and you will finish off turning a photograph into a painting. Open, to start with, the 10 palette. And you can resave this right away as 10 palette with your initials. The image includes a palette and 4 tubes of paint, which you're going to sample to pick up the colors that you'll be working with. You're going to change settings as you paint different colors, and you're going to work with different brush tip settings and wetness options. Zoom in so that you can look at the tubes of paint. If you pick up your eyedropper tool and sample the red, the foreground color over here changes to red. Go into the brushes, click and hold, and the last brush in the drop-down is going to be the mixer brush. That's the one you want to select. Go to Window, Brush, and open the brush panel. The first brush, which you need to select, is a soft, round 30. The effects of the brush that you use is determined by the wet, the load, and the mix fields in the options bar. The wet controls how much paint the brush will pick up from the canvas. Load controls how much paint the brush holds when you begin painting. Just like with a physical brush, it runs out of paint after you've been painting with it. Mix controls the ratio of paint from the canvas and paint from the brush. And you can change these settings separately. Sometimes it's faster to select a standard combination from the pop-up menu. To begin with, we're going to choose Dry from the pop-up menu of blending brush combinations. When you select Dry, the wet setting is reduced to 0. Load is reduced to 50%, and Mix is not available. With the Dry preset, you will paint in opaque color. With a dry brush on a dry canvas, you cannot mix colors. Go up and paint a little bit above the red tube. You get a solid red color that fades off at the edges. As you continue to paint without releasing the brush, the paint will eventually run out and the brush will go dry. It takes a while, but there I'm still pressing and no longer am I getting much of any color, if at anything at all. Sample the blue color from the blue tube of paint. To do that, just hold down your Alt button and click, Option click if you're on a Mac, and then go back to your mixer brush, and in the brush panel, look for the round fan shape brush. That should be number 25. And now we get the little brush over here. Change this from Dry on the drop down to Wet. Paint above the blue tube. Wet is preset at 50%, Load at 50%, and Mix at 50%. With this brush, the paint is going to mix with the white background, so you get a lighter blue color. The more you go over it, the more blue you're going to put down. If you choose dry again, you're going to get the darker blue, and it doesn't mix so much with the white background. The bristles from the fan brush are more apparent than the bristles that we used from the first brush. The bristle quality makes a difference in the kind of texture that you paint. Back in the brushes panel, you can change your number of bristles. If we change our bristles down to 40%, the default was 66, you can see you're going to get fewer bristles. Painting a little bit more with the blue brush, you can see the bristles are even more obvious. Next, sample the yellow color from the yellow paint. In the brush panel, select the flat point brush with fewer bristles. That's the one right next to the fan brush. And choose dry from the drop-down setting. And then paint in the area over the yellow tube. Change your setting from dry to very wet, and then paint some more. Now the yellow is going to mix with the background. If you paint over, you're mixing both the yellow that you had before and the background. Next, we're going to work with an erodible tip. With an erodible tip, the width of the brush changes as you paint. These are represented in the brush panel by the pencil icons. You have one right below the brush that you were using. In the physical world, of course, pencils and pastels have erodible tips. We're going to experiment with erodible point and with triangle tips. So now scroll down and pick up the green color from the green paint tube. Go up and choose Dry Heavy Load from your drop-down. And with your editable point tip, you're going to choose a rotable point from the Shape menu. You're going to change the brush's size to 30 pixels and change the softness to 100%. The softness value determines how quickly that tip is going to erode. A 100% means it's going to erode fairly quickly. Draw a zigzag line above the green paint tube. The line gets thicker as you're drawing and the tip erodes. You can click Sharpen Tip in the brush panel, and your tip is going to be sharpened, and it's going to get thicker again as you draw. You get a much narrower line to begin with. Next, pick a rotable triangle. Draw a zigzag with it. You can choose from several different erodible tips. You have point, flat, round, square, triangle, or even custom. When we come back, we'll work with mixing our colors.